Good evening, everyone. If you wish to speak or comment on certain items on the agenda, you should have signed up to speak either prior to this meeting or on the sign-up sheets at the entrance. This will be your last opportunity to sign up. We will pick up the sign-up sheets, and only those individuals who have signed up will be allowed to speak. Welcome. I am Mayor Donald T. Lopez, Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque. I want to welcome everyone to the May 10th regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I'm calling the meeting to order. The time is 7:01 p.m. This meeting is streamed on the village website. The public can also participate via Zoom. Instructions and overall public participation guidance for commenting is listed on the website and on page 5 of the meeting packet. The Village of Los Ranchos is providing the ability for the public to participate in hybrid meetings. As with any application, digital service, or software, the opportunity for failure can occur. Therefore, the village is not responsible for the inability to connect to the meeting, either by Zoom meeting link or viewing via live stream. This meeting video and audio is recorded and will be available online after the meeting on the village website. At this time, I'm going to call the roll. Mayor Pro Tem, Trustee Pacheco.
Present.
Trustee Lewis.
Present.
Trustee Benavides.
Present.
Trustee Radnovich.
Present.
Thank you. If you will now stand and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 4 is the approval of the agenda. I need a motion to approve or amend the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I need a second.
I'll second that.
I'm going to call for the question, call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco.
Yes.
Trustee Lewis.
Yes.
Trustee Benavides.
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously. At this time, we will move to item 5, general public comment. Participants wishing to speak on topics that do not appear on the agenda will be given 3 minutes. No action can occur on these items. Danielle, please proceed by calling up the individual signed up for general public comment.
Maria. Thank you, Mayor and trustees. Our first individual is Mr. Joe Craig. If you would please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Joe Craig, 505 Calle del Pajarito Northwest. Good to see you again. I would like to point out that we had a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting yesterday, which you're probably all aware. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted yes for our complaints that we have on the 3 site development program projects. I would like you to review that if you can. Any violations of the authorization by the commission is cause for legal action by the village. Construction needs to be stopped. That's under 9.1.13. I want to make a point at the last part of that meeting. Former trustee Commissioner Mary Holman made a very impassioned speech. I would advise, or I'd like all of you to review it. I think Mary Holman represents what we all strive to be as a commissioner and a former trustee, and a very good speech by her as a resident as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Mr. Tom Donnellan. Let's go to Mr. Bill Shen. Thank you. If you would, please state your name, address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Bill Shen, 8646 Rio Grande Boulevard, Northwest. I'm a resident of Los Ranchos for 21 years now, and I retired and become a volunteer at AgriNature Center for the last 6 years. That volunteer involved every Wednesday during the planting time, March to November, about 2 to 3 hours, and I also come in regularly in other time during the week. I recently heard some disparaging remark concerning the Agri-Nature Center's operation, that we don't pay attention, that we bury our head in the sand, saying kumbaya. Well, I disagree. And I want to come here to present my point, my side of the view, as 21 years resident of the village, more importantly, as a volunteer, a 6-year volunteer, with boots on the ground, with dirt in my fingernail, that I want to say that, most importantly, had this operation been ran with indifference, with incompetence, or pay lip service to the agricultural tradition, I will run to the administrator, I'll run to the mayor, I'll run to the trustee and complain about that. You know I'm not shy about this. I mean, I stand in this podium many times complaining about other issues, and I did not say a thing about Agri-Nature Center because there's nothing systematic wrong with this Agri-Nature Center. Yeah, I mean, yes, there are problems. During the early days, yeah, it was hard. There was a lot of birthing pain. During the COVID lockdown, life was hard. Equipment didn't get maintained. And then, of course, the drought of 2022, there were difficulties, no doubt about that. But everybody pitched in. We work hard to make this thing happen, okay? We're not sitting around just saying kumbaya, okay? All right, allow me make a couple observations as a 6-year volunteer, okay? One, you guys are lucky, damn lucky, to have Joshua O'Haron as agriculture manager. And he is lucky to be assisted by the hardworking Sabrina Apodaca. I know they're hardworking because I see them after hours. I see them during the weekend, working at events, working at class and stuff like that. And whoever were involved in hiring them, the administrator, mayor, you guys did brilliant. You did great, okay? So a round of applause for you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, the second observation is this, that this open space, this Agri-Nature Center is not just a 25 acres of vacant lots. This is a
Thank you. We appreciate your thoughts. Can you finish your thought when your time has expired?
Okay, it's a multi-purpose, multi-generational, multi-organizational center of excellence. And it is created with passion and is managed with just brilliant. So I'm delighted to be associated with this organization, and I believe this will be a shining light of Los Ranchos that be known across New Mexico.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shin. Last up is Mr. David Montoya. If you would, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm David Montoya. I have a place at 8831 4th Street. So I just wanted to thank everyone here for the work you do. And I know it's hard. And we have been talking amongst a lot of friends of the village and a lot of people that we come in contact and reach out to. But one of them, we need people like Bill Shen at Aldel Norte. And we have a lot of money that if it doesn't get used, gets lost. And I understand we're spending that money. Now, I'd like to make this a park like it was originally intended to on both sides of Pueblo Solano. Things are really not what we'd like to see. If it looked 1/10, 1/100th of what the Agri-Nature Center looks like, I think we could pat ourselves in the back. It's just not that way. But I think that we have a definite problem here. And I think there's a fix. I'd like to see a resolution soon to get the trustees paid so they can spend more time, and the mayor paid. And we're talking about an 80-20, $80,000 for the mayor, $20,000 for trustees. And I think that'll give us, it'll allow professionals like many of you are to apply the time that really requires to really watch what the village is doing, because they need you. And I'm suggesting that we really consider that. I'm suggesting that maybe in the public comment, in your own time that you have afterwards, that you'll seriously consider this and encourage the mayor to put this on the agenda, because I see this as a problem in our village. People need to be compensated for their hard work and hard time. I mean, and hard work and all the time they put in it. So we didn't take this lightly. We did a lot of canvassing, and we went all over the village talking about this, and people generally see this as a partial solution. And I really encourage to give more things to groups like the CAG committee, because that worked out really wonderfully on 4th Street. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. Mr. Tom Donilon, if you would, please join us at the podium. You have 3 minutes. If you would state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. I'm Tom Donilon. I live at 6668 Edgewood Drive Northwest in Los Ranchos. And I was coming from having attended the meeting last night with the PNC, and with the appeal being upheld, basically because of problems with the contract that existed in the development agreement. And since it was one that Nan authored, I would encourage the trustees to consider getting a second opinion on the validity, on the issues that are contained in that development agreement, particularly the one clause which moved all the approvals of the plat and the site development plans away from the Board of Trustees and to staff. So that's what I just want to encourage you, that you probably will be better served if you have at least a second opinion on what's happening there. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Donilon. And Mayor and trustees, with that, that concludes public comment.
Thank you, Danielle. We're going to move to 6 presentations. 6A is Andres Sanchez, President of the New Mexico Watershed and Dam Owners Coalition, parentheses, NMWDOC. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and trustees. My name is Andres Sanchez. I am not a resident of Los Ranchos. My address is 7120 Coors Trail, Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I'm here today as the president of the New Mexico Watershed and Dam Owners Coalition. Not really official village business here, more of a giant thank you that the organization wanted to make to the mayor for his years and years of service to our organization. We're a group of individuals that work on a volunteer basis to really help try to educate owners of dams in the state that a lot of times are in very rural and with limited resources, so that they can maintain their dams, preserve the safety of folks that might live below them, etc. We also help with training and some other, we put on an annual conference as well, which is probably our primary outreach activity. But Don has really been great throughout the years. He's been there much longer than I have. I've been a part of it for, I don't know, maybe 10 years, but Don's been involved much longer than that. So we just wanted to come out and make, or I did, and make a big deal about Don We have a little gift for you here, Don, and if I could push you to open it, I think it.
Okay, bring it up, bring it on up.
It's not gonna explode in your face.
Oh, okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, my. Oh, all right, okay, very nice. To Don Lopez, New Mexico Watershed and Dam Owner Coalition, thanks, the man, the legend. I don't know about that.
So
I don't know about that.
thank you, Don.
But Andres, I will say this to you. In all of my years, your organization improving watersheds and helping dams and levees and acequias to be maintained properly, it's kind of been a great honor of mine. So thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Don. Good luck with all your other ventures. I know you got a little
I appreciate
crazy
it.
there. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to item 6B. John D. Allen, the Bernalillo County Sheriff. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. Sheriff John Allen, address is 400 Roma, downtown Albuquerque. Not a resident of Los Ranchos, but a pleasure and honor to serve your community and make sure you're safe. Sorry I missed the last meeting that you all had, so I want to make sure that I addressed all of you, and of course, questions at the end or anything that you have, but we're making sure, like I said, as soon as we took office, we want to make sure that we built the meritocracy. And why I say that is we always make sure that we place the right people with talent and performance to serve the areas. And all the honor right now goes to Captain Kimber over here to make sure that we're proactive in your area. We want to make sure also to promulgate to criminals and anybody else to stay away from your village. This is our area, this is our turf, and we own it, so we want to make sure that we're serving you correctly. At the same time, also any community policing events, we appreciate all of your support that you've given us over the years, specifically this year. We greatly appreciate that. That allows our deputies and everybody else to do their jobs and also make sure that we're hitting the smaller areas such as ditch banks, open spaces, and things of that nature. So any questions or anything else that you
Well,
have?
Sheriff Allen, I just want to make a statement that your organization, since you have become sheriff, has really exceeded my expectations. I can tell you, I live on Rio Grande Boulevard, but I travel every street in the village every day. And your group, Justin Kimbrough and the other deputies are out there. They're really watching things. They're trying to keep speeding under control. And so just keep up the good work. Thank you very, very much. I don't know if the other trustees want to say anything or not.
I just want to say thank you. I too have noticed, patrol cars coming up and down the neighborhoods, and it really is a comfort to see your staff out in the community, and I just wanted to say thank you as well.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheriff Allen.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you, I'll be here soon. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, we now move to item 7, approval of the minutes. The minutes of the April 3rd, 2023 budget working session. B, minutes of the April 12th, 2023 regular meeting. I'm going to need a motion to approve both sets of minutes, the April 3rd and the April 12th.
Mayor, remind me if we have some corrections, we need the motion made first.
You should make the motion and then offer your corrections.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the the minutes for the April 3rd meeting, as well as, what was the next one?
April 12th.
April 12th. And I do have some corrections.
Okay, let's do them.
I'll second that first.
Thank you.
Okay. And these are just really minor
Sure.
little typo
What
things.
page?
So page 11,
11?
sentence 57. So we moved AN, should be AN extra 2 million into LGIP.
Perfect.
Okay, and then the next one is on page 16, line 77. And where we start the sentence, as far as I know, we do not have an open space, should be a master plan, I believe. That was what was said for the Del Norte open space.
Okay, master plan.
77.
Number 77, line 77.
I'm not sure that that's what it was, but I believe
I
so.
do believe you're correct. Continue.
That's all I have.
Any other corrections? Trustee Benavides, trustee Radnovich? Okay, then with these minor changes, I call for the question. Call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco?
Yes.
Trustee Lewis?
Yes.
Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously. Now, we move to departmental reports. The departmental reports are included in the packet and reflect all the activities as listed. Ms. Rinaldi would like to expand on her report, and so I think at this time, Ms. Rinaldi, if you would come forward and give your report.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. Quickly moving through, Phase 1, 4th Street is fully closed out, audit complete, no audit findings. Off the record, in the boxes in the storage room. So that's fantastic. We have, the last item on that, though, is we still have a warranty period with Bradbury on construction items relating to the change orders, the final construction activities. We have a warranty through December 2023, and then everything is done. Final engineering Phase 2, we have issued the task order to BHI, and with that, we have received our disbursement of transportation project funds for the entirety of design. Of that funding, that $750,000 funding that we received 2 years ago for design, that's now completely obligated, which is good going into this next cycle of grant applications, which are due at the end of this month. The balance of the BHI contract is coming out of various funding sources, including the final disbursement on Phase 1 balance money. We had issued a notice of obligation to Mara Reardon Wilkinson Miller for 4th Street signage. They are unable to fulfill that contract in time to be paid under that expiring money. So now it's just rolling over to Phase 2 design. And we continue to work with Bernalillo County on incorporation of their road diet from Alameda to Ortega into our project. And we have our first 4th Street project Phase 2 kickoff meeting next Wednesday night here in this room from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And we're out distributing flyers. It's posted everywhere it can be. It's on the website. A mass email has gone out, and we're hoping that we have great attendance. On the Agri-Nature Center improvements, we have issued a notice of award, notice to proceed to Franken Construction based on their quote received from the RFQ for the outdoor classroom. They will begin as soon as we have approval from the state of New Mexico obligating those funds, and that project will be completed by July 1. They have completed substantial completion of the roadway improvements from the entrance through the grading of the roadway alignment, and we have issued a change order to them to install a gate and the electrical required to operate that gate and to illuminate future signage. There's an appropriation that's expiring June 30th and we're all clear for that. That's all been obligated and will be drawn, and will be drawn down. We have closed out the co-op crack seal paving project that included most recently the Tyler Road repave, and we submitted an application, as you can see in the report. We have unofficial news that our award is going to be $450,000. So coupled with our $250,000 match, we have a significant project. We were going for $1 million match. It was an ambitious project. We didn't quite get there, but they have doubled our award every year that we've submitted. So that's a nice record. And Keen and Ann and I will be working with the roadway improvement program that Keen has put together and selecting the higher priorities out of those submitted. And we will give you an update on that. We have issued a notice of award for survey and PER engineering on Chavez Road for the multi-use trail. There will be an agenda item this evening. We'll discuss it at that point in time. But in accordance with the requirements of FHWA and state procurement and our own procurement, we issued the RFQ, had a committee rate and rank, and we selected Parametrics, and you will be considering their professional services agreement later this evening. And lastly, the last thing I want to talk about is the transportation systems analysis. Many people will have noticed that the counters have been placed in various locations on roadways throughout the village, and drone video and counting are taking place at additional locations around the village, and I just wanted to tell you what those were. So if you see the tubes on the ground doing the counting, that's the Mid-Region Council of Government verifying their existing data for traffic counts. The ones that I'm going to talk about now, you may see a person out there, a drone operator or someone with a simple clicker standing at these locations to collect data. So we are collecting data at El Pueblo and Rio Grande Boulevard from 7:15 to 8:15 a.m. and 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. Collecting data at El Pueblo and 4th Street, same times, videos at both of those locations. Guadalupe Trail and Ranchitos Road, same times, no video, just manual counting. And drone counting without video. And those are due to cost considerations. And that this is how their scope came out with parametrics. Rio Grande Boulevard and Chavez Road, 4th Street and Osuna, 2nd and Osuna, Guadalupe Trail, and southernmost is Solar Road and 4th Street. In about a month's time, we will have a meeting to discuss the data collected. And at about that same time, there will be the first public participation activity sent out. And I'll give you some more information on that in the next meeting. We'll be prepared, because what we want to do is we want to be able to present the data, collect the perceptions of the population, and do a comparison, because they are of an equal importance. The actual counts are extremely important, but people's perception of what levels of congestion, traffic, commuter, local circulation, those also matter when we're looking at potential alternatives for fixing, improving, or even just in planning, land use planning for development or otherwise. So you'll hear more about that in my next report. And I think that's all for now.
Okay, I'm going to go trustee by trustee to see if any of the trustees have questions for Ms. Rinaldi. Trustee Pacheco.
I do. On the Chavez Road Multi-Use Trail Project, Maria, you mentioned that the review committee has completed the rating and ranking of proposals. On the survey and right-of-way, when do we anticipate making the changes or making the selections, sorry?
So we have made a selection, and the recommendation is for award to Parametrics, and it's an item for new business on tonight's agenda. And we can talk about scope and fee and all of that at that point in time, if that's okay?
That sounds great. Thank you. That's all I had for Maria.
Okay, trustee Lewis.
Good evening, Maria.
Good evening.
My first question was, I know on the 17th, we're having this the kickoff for the design meeting. In your notes, you say additionally, a meeting will be held specifically for property owners, tenants in the project area. Can you touch on that a little bit more?
Certainly. Somewhere between 60 and 90% design when we actually have like right-of-way and some level of design to be able to show people who are immediately adjacent how this project has the potential to impact positively and possibly or negatively on their individual projects. We will hold a meeting specific to all of those property owners, and they'll each get individual notice so that they can come in, look at the maps that we have, the design, the right-of-way, all of that, and ask any questions or speak specifically about what the project will look like directly in front of their property.
So that'll be dependent upon how getting to 60%, how long that takes?
Correct.
Okay.
That is not yet scheduled.
Okay.
I mean, we have a basic project schedule, and I actually should distribute that to you, Mayor and trustees, and I will do that. And they're very specific. We have targets and dates and such, and so it's a deliverable by. So sometime before that date, this will occur. And that meeting is between 60 and 90%. Which, may I add, Trustee Lewis, gives us opportunity to adjust the design accordingly to input from the property owner.
Great. Maria, that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Benavides. Just a couple. Let's see, under final engineering, phases 2A through 2C, Pueblo Solano to village limits, there's a task order for BHI in the amount of $1,078,000 about. And that is for final design, I believe, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So, and then on the next page, we talk about the cost estimate for 2A to 2C, the construction cost estimate being $27,700,000. Okay. So my question is the previous number that I quoted, the $1,078,000, is that part of the 27,000?
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, that is exclusive of this.
Okay, that's what I was assuming, because what you specifically said, 27,700,000 was for construction only.
Correct.
Okay, so you said it correctly. Let's see, one other thing. Page 38 under Village Center project. Okay, nothing to report from a project management perspective, okay? So that's the qualifying word is from your perspective. But it seems like there's a lot to be reported on, right? Can you maybe explain that?
Absolutely. Mayor, Trustee, Benavides trustees, I was tasked with, number one, writing the Metropolitan Redevelopment Plan. Number two, creating, writing and getting the approvals on the RFP process. And number three, participating in the development and adoption of the development agreement. After that, all other actions are outside of project management purview and outside of what I was tasked to do, and now sit in planning and zoning, which is not my purview whatsoever. So I leave it there, and maybe I should remove it. I leave it there just in case there are questions related to the RFP, the MRA, all those adopted policies that are based, by the way, on all of the planning documents that the village has adopted over the past 22 years. So I'm not involved in anything related to Village Center project at this point forward, unless it relates back to those activities.
Right, okay, so that makes sense. You're not tasked to report on that.
Correct.
Fair enough.
Should I remove that?
Well,
I actually think that you should leave it in there personally, but I mean, it's up to the trustees.
I don't care, but I think I was just saying it to get some clarification to the residents and the public.
Yes, sir.
Just to make it clear that that is not your task, yeah. So whether you want to remove it or not, I don't care. That's all I have from Maria. Okay, Trustee Radnovich.
I just have one thing, Maria, on your report, and I'm sure this is a mistake, or maybe I just missed something. Your figure for the funding secured is a little different than Ann's figure was, and I just wondered why that was.
Mayor, Trustee Radnovich, no disregard to Madam Administrator, but I'd bet on my figures. And my figures are rounded, and hers, I don't have to deal with the budgeting, so bless her, she has to. Mine are rounded. My figures are rounded, and mine contain things like project match and matching funds that may or may not be the village, so there's always going to be a little difference. So mine are different from the perspective of the monies that I'm dealing with to get to a bottom line, and Madam Administrators are based on what she has budgeted and obligated that she's responsible for. So they're both the same. But so there's always going to be a little bit of a difference, but from a project management perspective.
Yeah, and I'm not criticizing at all.
Mayor, trustees, can I just get clarification on which number was different?
Sure. The on page 37, of our report, it says funding secured for construction, $3,150,000. And on your report, and it said something like 260. So I just,
Mayor, trustees, if I could clarify, that is because we took the 1 million out of Phase 2A, because it can only be spent in Phase 2B. So funding secured for 2A is 2.6.
got it.
Oh, that's good. Mayor Trustee Radnovich, she's reporting on just the first phase, and I'm reporting on the entirety of funding.
Got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. That's
Okay,
it.
if the governing body has questions on any of the remaining departmental reports, we will have each trustee ask all their questions before we move on to the next trustee. Trustee Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, I'd just first like to say congratulations to you and Danielle for completing and passing the New Mexico Chief Procurement Officers Training Recertification class. Let's see. Administrator Simon, just wanted to comment, that the Agri-Nature Center roadway project, I'm having trouble talking tonight. Roadway project, it looks beautiful, absolutely beautiful. You all did a great job in pulling that all together. I think it's awesome. Now going back to the Chavez Road multi-use trail, I know that we are working to do the right-of-way survey on that. Is that also going to be talked about tonight? Okay, so we will wait for that. With regard to Village Center, curious as to how interested businesses are getting more information with regard to leasing opportunities. Is there a place? I know, we kind of talk about the different things that are happening in Village Center, but if there is an interested business, how are they communicating with Palindrome at this point?
Mayor Trustee Pacheco, there is a contact link on our website that takes you directly to Palindrome. I don't know how they're reaching out, but they already have a waiting list. We heard from Weston Glass last night that there's a waiting list both for the residential and for the businesses.
It's excellent. Fantastic. Thank you. Again, thank you to Maria for getting the 4th Street project done. It's been a long time coming. Thank you. And I also want to congratulate Maida. Wow, one of 8 who passed the certified floor plan manager exam. That's floodplain manager exam. That's excellent. Okay, and Joshua. Yeah, I will have just one question, but I also have a comment for you. I also read, an email that I found upsetting, to say the least. I just want to thank you for specifically addressing the 2035 master plan in all your programming. You're obviously meeting the objectives that we have set forth in the master plan. Your team is staying on task. They're meeting what we set out to do with the master plan, and I just wanted to say that formally here within the meeting. But I also wanted to ask you with regard to the master plan, and it's pretty obvious to me, but I'd like to hear from you. Are you using the master plan as your guide in programming at the Agri-Nature Center? And how are you doing that?
Mayor, trustees, Trustee Pacheco. Actually, when I started my job, that's what Mayor and Ann gave to me, and I spent the first few weeks just kind of going over that and brainstorming. Also with the Ag Committee, as they can recall, we did a SWOT analysis to kind of to look at all those points and how we can meet each of those objectives with the opportunities that we had and what we had available at the Ag Center. And so And so whenever we are setting our workshops or our plan for the following year, we base it off of that. And like, what can we do to promote wildlife habitat? That's one of them. What can we do for intergenerational work? What can we do for research, supporting farmers? So we kind of go through that to make sure that we have a diverse set of goals for the coming year.
Well, thank you. It's obvious you're doing an excellent job in doing that. And I really just wanted the public to hear from you, how you're using the master plan as a guide for programming. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have for you, Joshua. Maida, I want to congratulate your staff as well. I mean, they do a lot of behind the scenes work that, we don't always see here. But I think that we owe your staff a thank you for keeping things humming. I mean, it would only be if something broke that we would, sometimes see these things. And I just wanted to say thank you to your staff as well. And I think that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, Trustee Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First thing I just had was, again, to congratulate Maria. I know that was a long process, and you stayed after it with real tenacity. That we're very fortunate, and thank you. And Maida, congratulations to you, too. That's pretty awesome. My next questions are for Joshua. Can you tell us a little bit about the Privetta Coalition that you guys had the summit, or were you? I don't know if we were involved or just hosted it, but if you could tell us a little bit about who they are and what they do.
Sure. Yeah, the Quivira Coalition is an organization that that promotes sustainable agriculture and farming and livestock production ranching in the Southwest. So they founded here in Albuquerque and in New Mexico, but they also do work in Colorado and Utah. So what they do is they have a fellowship program, and this was kind of the summit of that fellowship program. They provide grants to young farmers and ranchers. They do trainings, and they also are the host of the Regenerate Conference every year, which is kind of the big kind of sustainable agriculture conference for the Southwest. So that's what their organization does. Yeah.
Great. Nick, I was going to ask you, I understand it was awesome. I did not attend, but if you could tell a little bit about the farm-to-table dinner that you all put on?
Yeah, Mayor, trustees, Trustee Lewis, yes, the mayor was able to join us. That was great. Yeah, we did it, kept it small. It was nice and intimate, 30 people is what we sold tickets for, but it was, we had a demonstration of cooking seasonally, so using what's in the field this time of year to create seasonal dishes and how you might do that. And then we enjoyed a farm-to-table dinner out in the hops yard, which was quite nice. Yeah, people liked it.
Great, thank you. The other thing, just a little bit of food for thought in reading through your report as we do Matanzas, et cetera. Just food for thought, I'm wondering if there's some point we can tie in with the 4-H livestock sale possibly, that we're getting our animals either locally from village residents, or I think the 4-H fair would be a great place to see if we can come up with a way to purchase animals for those kind of events from the kids in the 4-H. That's all I have for you, Joshua. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Lewis. Trustee Benavides.
Hang on, that was all for Joshua.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Come on, Don, give me some.
Go right ahead.
Maida, I had a couple questions on your report on page 35. I didn't know if your numbers were correct. There was a re-roof for $300. I thought that's pretty dang good. I'd like the name of that roofer.
Mayor, Trustee Lewis, I believe it's a flat fee for a re-roof, so 100 per. So that's the fee, but maybe not the total cost of the re-roof.
Okay.
Unfortunately for the owners.
And is that how the solar works too, that we have a fee?
Same, yeah.
Okay, and then the residential construction new, is that fees or is that,
It's
Price of construction.
Mayor and Trustee Lewis, it's based on the valuation of the project.
okay,
So it's a calculation based on the valuation is the fee.
okay, and the other two are fees, all righty. Maria, I've asked my questions of Maria. I have no further questions, thank you.
Okay, Trustee Benavides.
Yes, Ann Simon first. Let's see, page 30 in your report, Chavez Road multi-use trail. You talk about future phases of this project will include design and public input before construction. Will that include options for the public to
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, I'm going to hand this over to Maria.
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, trustees, I'm going to go over the scope of the project to be awarded to Parametrics, and it certainly includes all of that.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. So this is also in your report, Ann Simon, but it's about the Del Norte open space, so maybe Joshua might want to take it. You talk about the fescue, the tall fescue being planted, and I'm wondering if that could survive if we're only getting water once every 3 weeks.
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, I'm happy to have Joshua come up and weigh in, but I will clarify that we did meet with Jason Kasuga of the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, and the water ring schedule right now is on demand. It is not every 21 days. That's misinformation that he asked us to help promote and clarify.
What does on demand mean?
Josh, you want to answer?
I mean, not anytime you want it, right? Maybe it does.
Mayor, trustees, Trustee Benavides, on demand means that based on scheduling, it's on demand. So they could still only provide it to one person at a time based on where you're getting water. So in a rotation, it'll just keep going around. There won't be any gaps. So if I get water, then my neighbor gets it, then the next one gets it, and then it's my turn again, I can get it the very next day, even if it's 4 days later.
Oh, so that means it can be even once a week?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Another question about Del Norte open space, tree planting. What type of trees, and will there be bushes on the berms?
Mayor, trustees, Trustee Benavides, the current plan is to put Afghan pines up there, something that's not deciduous, so that for the visual and noise barrier, we would have something year-round. So there is that plan. We would also like to do a second planting just within that offsetting from where the trees are planted of bushes and shrubs in a subsequent planting after that.
Thank you for that. Let's see. You might want to stay up there, Joshua. I think you're next. Page 32. Oops. First, let me tell you, I know you've been feeling a lot of pressure lately, and I made some comments that may have sound critical as well, but I am a fan of yours. I've been watching you. I realize you work very hard, and what Bill Shen means a lot to me, and I agree with everything that Bill says. So you may not stick around for the informal comments by trustees, but I plan to talk about this further, about the Agri Nature Center, so you might tune in later on if you get a chance. Okay, let's see. Page 33, consulted. Oh, yeah, Joshua consulted with local landowners to discuss how best to farm their fields. By local, do we mean Los Ranchos residents?
Mayor, trustees, trustee Benavides, yes, only Los Ranchos residents.
Okay, that is fantastic. I mean, this is one of the things that I've been hoping to do a better job of connecting with our residents. And part of what I'm going to talk about in the informal discussion is how do we go about doing that better, you know, and making more of those connections. What tools can we have? So it may sound like a criticism about you, but it's a criticism about us, all of us, okay, up here. So please keep that in mind.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Maida, number 34. Oh, okay, so, very good. You said this month, the Planning and Zoning Department staff met with Hamari, the company assisting the village in identifying unlicensed short-term rentals in order to bring in these properties into compliance. So I have been hearing from people that there are unlicensed people out there with short-term rentals, and it's very unfair to those that that are licensed. And so I'm happy to hear something's being done about that. Do you care to comment about that?
Sure, Mayor and Trustee Benavides. So we have been understaffed, as you may be aware, but we're working to close that loop with enforcement on the Airbnbs, the short-term rentals, because that has been brought to our attention. We understand that it's an issue. We want it to be a fair process, and we want to bring people into compliance with our process. So we, the staff and I met with Amari. Basically, they scrape data and look for active short-term rentals online that they can find. They look at various times of the week and over different time periods to try to identify these rentals, alert us about it. We provide them also with the short-term rentals that do have our license, and so they can say, yes, these ones are good to go. And basically, we want to close the loop with working particularly closely with Michelle and Thomas, because Michelle processes our business applications, which they would need with that license, and does a lot of that follow-up work. And Thomas goes out and works on compliance, so connects with property owners. And between the three of us, we feel confident that we will continue to bring folks into compliance.
Can you give me a number of how many of these out-of-compliance units you found through Hamari?
Off the top of my head, no, but it was much less than I thought. For active listings, I'm going to give you the wrong number, but I want to say in the ballpark of 40 to 60, 40. And we have about 20 that are licensed in the village. So it's a lot in terms of numbers. We're working on it, but it's nothing of the magnitude that we were fearing that we might see. So.
But you found about 20 unlicensed, you think?
About 20 that are licensed with us. And again, I'm going to mess up this number, but maybe 40 that aren't.
Well, that's still pretty significant, I would say.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's why we're on the case.
So, no, I think that's really good that you're on top of that. Let's see. I already talked to Maria. Page 40, Fred. Oh, shoot. Let me get to my page here. Yes, okay. Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office. Burglaries, So I see 3 there, right, in March, is that correct?
Correct.
I wonder, I mean, what I don't see here are trends, and 3 doesn't sound like a big number, but, you know, I'm recently aware of one in my neighborhood, very close to where I live, and so it feels like there's a lot, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's a lot. I would like for you to comment about the trends. Is that pretty stable, that what we're seeing? Are things ticking up? And you don't, it doesn't have to be just burglaries that you're talking about. It could be, you know, crashes or vandalisms and things like that.
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, actually in the next couple of months, I will give you some comparisons on some charts for the last couple of years on the different things. Most of the numbers stay pretty stable, to be quite honest with you. The exception lately, traffic stops have gone sky high. I just got April's report, which you don't have yet. I just got it yesterday. 168 traffic stops in the village for 1 month. So they've been doing a lot of different things. The sheriff's office has revamped their crime stats, the way they're doing them. The past administration wasn't publishing a lot of that stuff and wasn't sending that out. I've talked to the captain and the sheriff, and we'll get our reports a lot quicker, number one. But then also they will be able to then go back and give us some trend analysis and different things so that we can then determine if, with the help of them, where we need to spend more time at.
One final thing for you, Fred. I know you've been working with the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office to get more patrolling in the village, so I want to thank you for your efforts.
Sure.
I think you deserve some credit for that, so thank you.
And just, Mayor and Trustee, I did meet with the captain after our meeting. We've had a couple of meetings now. I've got an addendum to the MOU, which will give them some additional money. And then the way we're going to measure that is the captain and I will meet on a weekly basis based on issues that either he's hearing or I'm hearing from the community to then put what they call directed patrols out with that money and then work in those specific areas.
This is a really positive step, so thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Don't leave the podium, Fred. Trustee Pacheco has one final question, then I'll move to you, Trustee Radford.
Sorry, Fred,
That's all right.
I forgot to ask you my questions. I'm sure we all noticed that there was some graffiti on El Pueblo. I was just curious, who's responsible for the cleanup of that? And I don't know if that's a Administrator Simon question or a you question.
I think I can handle it, Mayor and Trustee Pacheco. The property owners are responsible for the cleanup of their own property. We can work with them and work with Bernalillo County. They do have a graffiti removal. I don't know if it's funded anymore, whatever, but most of the time we can work with them and to make sure that it gets cleaned up. If it's on public property or anything that has to do with us, we will then be responsible for it.
Okay, and was there any other graffiti along that road? Was it just that
that
wall?
that was a very isolated incident, and you know, it was some language in there that, you know, people were a little bit worried. A lot of times graffiti is just a spur of the moment thing that they're just happen to be driving down and tag a wall. But as soon as it happened, I got a hold of the captain. He then assigned a sergeant and then a deputy from the gang prevention unit just to make sure that there was no other issues that were there. And they have assured us that there's not. That was just
Isolated.
isolated. And we do have graffiti every so often in different places, usually along the ditches and different places out of sight. But if you saw the one on El Pueblo, it was pretty visual.
Right,
So.
right. Okay, and then just one last thing. You talk about theft of copper on 4th Street. Is it multiple locations? Is it one? And are we communicating that to the other businesses around there that might have copper?
Mayor and Trustee, I think this was an isolated incident. It was one specific business. I will tell you, after they reported it, the first one, I talked to the business owner, the sheriff's department talked to him. They then actually replaced the copper, and they also put up some motion sensors. And so when the motion sensor went off at 4 o'clock in the morning, they contacted the sheriff's office, and they were able to catch the individual walking down 4th Street at 4 o'clock in the morning with a ladder.
Wow.
So.
Awesome. That's all I had. Thank you, Fred. Thank you,
Thanks.
Mayor.
Okay, trustee Radovich, your turn.
Okay, I do have something for you on El Pueblo, a couple things. Where on, oh, sorry. Thanks, Ann. Where on El Pueblo did that occur? I didn't see it. Was it recent?
It's right, just.
It's very close to my house.
I'm trying to think, it was, I don't know the address, Ann, do you know?
Mayor Trustee Radnovich, it was between Guadalupe Trail and Rio Grande on the south side.
Right,
Oh, wow.
along one of the adobe walls.
Oh, I didn't see it, yeah. I didn't either. Huh. I have noticed, I mean, I use that street pretty regularly, mostly daily, and I have noticed lots of people all the time, all hours of the day, running the stop sign there. I don't know that there's anything we can do about that because the street has those wide radii and makes it look like Guadalupe should be the only stop sign, but
I'll get with the captain. That's one of those things we can use that director patrol for, and I'll pass that on to him.
Yeah, it's just all the time. I came home from a friend's house for dinner at 10 o'clock one weekend a few weeks ago, and there were 2 cars that just didn't even stop, didn't even slow down. They just kept going.
I'll pass that on to him.
But that was all I had.
Okay,
Good job. Thanks, Fred. I have a couple other things. I wanted to say I really love the color of the wall at the Agri-Nature Center.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that color is really nice. And I think I was very worried about that project being a little too highly engineered and not fitting in with village character. And I think you did a great job. I mean, I think the whole thing looks really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention that. I did think the CAC meeting that we had last week went pretty well considering the circumstances. And, you know, while there were a lot of people there that were still upset about that ordinance, and rightfully so, I think the meeting was great. I wish I would have known about the May 17th date for the 4th Street design ahead of time because I'm not in town next week. We did follow a 2-week kind of advertisement or some way that we announced that the meeting was happening. And I guess that's for both Maria and Ann.
Mayor Trustee Radnovich, and I'd actually ask our clerk to chime in on this. Could you talk about the announcements of the meeting, please?
Thank you, Maria. Mayor and trustees, yes. We published it in the Albuquerque Journal, I want to say, this last Sunday. It's going to go again on Monday. It'll be published again. We do have it in various locations on our bulletin boards, posted out front. And we do have it posted on our website. So we've published it quite a bit and with advance notice. So there has been adequate notice for it. So if you're not going to be able to attend, Trustee Radnovich, we will be streaming it as well. So if you're in a position to kind of watch it, it'll be available and will be recorded so you can always watch it thereafter.
Great. Thanks, Danielle, and thanks for everything. I do wish you'd, this is just a request for later, if you'd let the trustees know ahead of time, that would be great, because normally if you have a public meeting, you usually do 2 weeks notice, and it sounds like we only did 10 days or something like that.
Mayor Trustee Radnovich, the meeting was posted on the website, I believe, April 30th.
There was more than 2 weeks' notice.
George, I can just tell you that last month's meeting, I asked Maria specifically that question to make sure it was announced at our meeting, May 17th. So I know it was something that we discussed at last month's meeting also.
We discussed that date? I didn't remember that.
Specifically, that was one of my questions of Maria.
Oh, I see. Got it.
The meeting is what date, what time? Okay, thank you, Maria. So it was discussed last month.
All right, thanks. I didn't remember that. So the Chavez Road project, and this is in your report, Ann, it says that we have been awarded $1.8 million for the preliminary phase. That is what the survey is coming out of? No.
Mayor Trustee Radnovich, we have been awarded funding for preliminary engineering to 30% design, which includes all the survey work. In addition, we were awarded an additional $1 million for right-of-way acquisition if necessary. If right-of-way acquisition is not necessary, those funds will change color to final design and/or construction.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And this is about Del Norte Open Space, and it's partially Joshua question and partially a question for you, Ann. So fescues have a allelopathic tendency with a lot of trees, and fescues are also high water. So I wondered about that. I don't know if cottonwoods are affected by its allelopathic tendencies, but we ought to find that out because it could affect the growth of those cottonwoods and the health of those cottonwoods. So, just saying. So maybe that's more for you, John.
Yeah, Mayor, trustees, Trustee Radnovich, we did look at that actually.
Oh,
And
good.
the cottonwoods shouldn't be affected by tall fescues, by any tall fescues. Yeah, they cohabitate quite fine together. Yeah.
Good, good.
Their root zones are fairly different, and so that kind of affects it as well. So yeah, affects
And-
the
and-
allelopathic
Right.
tendencies. So.
Yep, that's great. Why did we choose fescue? It's a pretty high water grass. And I was just curious why we chose such a high water grass,
Well,
especially in these times of drought.
Mayor, trustees, Trustee Vadnovich, as far as forage grasses go, as you know, so a lot of the native grasses aren't good forage grasses for cattle, and there's been a lot of requests in the village, especially with the neighbors in that who live in that area, to bring cattle back to the property or animals back to the property. And so the choice was based on livestock needs as well for good forage. And so it was trying to balance, water usage, but also something that would be a good forage crop for livestock.
Thanks. There are natives though that cattle can forage. I mean, that's why we see cattle in ranches, throughout the state, just saying. But thanks for the explanation. The new property acquisition I noticed was on here, and wow, that's awesome. I think so. That's a really good thing. I'm just amazed at that. Kudos to Maida. I just wanted to congratulate you too, and I also wanted to congratulate Danielle and the mayor and Maria as well as others have. So thanks and good job. Yeah, it's amazing the amount of work you do, Joshua. That's the only other comment I have. You're doing a really great job over there. It's really, really awesome. I don't have anything else, I don't think, but just one second, Mayor, before you move on. Oh, I noticed that Joe Craig, and this is for you, Fred. I noticed that Joe Craig noticed some suspicious activity. What was that all about? Because that's over in the El Pueblo area as well, I'm guessing.
Mayor and Trustee Radovich, that was an issue that some of the neighbors had on his street. And when he called me, then I passed it on to the sheriff's office, and I think he met with them and got the information to them.
Good. Good. And that's it.
Thank you, Trustee Radnovich. Let's move on to financial business. Discussion and approval of the April 2023 cash report. Is CFO Tammy Silva available on Zoom?
Hi, Mayor. Yes, I am here.
Okay. Before we get to her presentation, and maybe we should just do her presentation, then we'll do the motions in the second and then questions. Go ahead, Tammy.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. I'm going to go ahead and present to you the cash report for the month ending April 30th, 2023. Our ending cash balance on April 30th, 2023 was $11,952,277.98. And this was a decrease of $156,428.92 for the month. But our year-to-date excess of revenue over expenditures is still over $2 million at $2,083,885.76. And we had a couple significant items that went through during the month. First, the village paid its fourth and final payment for fiscal year 23 for the EMS and fire services to Bernalillo County. So you'll see that on the check register as check 2515 in the amount of $116,699. Then we also had a payment, the last payment for fiscal year 22 audit services to Jaramillo Accounting Group in the amount of $11,033.60, and that's check number 2477 on the check register. And then the last significant item was the village purchased water rights from Mario Gomez, check number 2510 in the amount of $131,040.
Okay, Tammy, before we get to discussion and questions from the governing body, I need a motion to approve the April cash report.
I'll make a motion to approve the April cash report.
I need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. I'm going to go trustee by trustee with any questions for CFO Tammy Silva. Trustee Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that there was an error discovered. No, sorry, it wasn't on the budget, or it wasn't on the cash report. But I did have a couple of questions with regard to some of the checks that were written to RAC Construction, the concrete cleanup on at Paseo del Norte property. Is that task completed now, or are we going to see more there?
Mayor, Trustee Pacheco, I'll take that one. I believe we have taken care of all of the concrete.
Okay, so that's kind of a final number for that cleanup, okay? What about, so the water rights, and Tammy mentioned those. Is that a typical cost for water rights? And I'm not familiar with how water rights are purchased.
They're very expensive, and it depends on the acre feet that you're buying.
Okay.
Mayor, Trustee Pacheco, they're about 17,000 an acre foot.
Okay, okay. So yes, there was a question, and I don't know if this is the one that that was kind of resolved. Was it under the general fund comparison interim budget where there was a calculation error?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was the one that was caught. And I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, trustee Lewis.
Thank you. I'm going to sort of throw this out there for whoever wants to field it. I think that's a pretty big deal, purchasing water rights.
Yes.
And I would like for the public's knowledge, for them to understand what we bought, why we bought it, et cetera. So if we could go into a little bit more detail about that purchase and what we're trying to do, I think that would be good for everybody.
Let me start by answering the questions about why we.
Mayor, you have to speak in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Let me answer the question about why we bought it. A year ago, we were in a drought. In fact, MRGCD gave us word over a year ago that we should be fallowing some of our properties because they weren't going to have enough surface water. Well, luckily, rains came and surface water showed up. This year is much better, but for the long haul, if you don't have water rights and can go with drip irrigation for a lot of what you've planted, you may lose your crops. You may lose your total investment. And so I think within the last year, we decided that it was very wise, and we actually have money that comes out of the, what is that fund?
Mayor, Trustee Lewis, we are using Rescue Act funding,
Exactly.
which is allowable. It's an allowable and expense.
Right.
And it prevents us from having to lease water rights from Los Lunas, which we do every year.
Right, right. We've been leasing water rights from Los Lunas at a fair amount of money. And of course, it's been working well for us because there has been enough surface water to be able to use. But for the long haul, it's wise for the village to have water rights. Now, the amount that we bought and how much we've spent, perhaps you can answer that question, Trustee, Administrator.
We budgeted $500,000 in the Rescue Act for water rights, and we've used, Tammy, $350,000.
Mayor, trustees, administrator, we've used, with this purchase and the purchase in the prior month, $237,000.
Thank you.
Great. I just thought there should be some more of that. I think those are pretty significant actions that the village has taken, and I wanted people to be aware of what.
I want to add another comment. There is an individual, her name is Kim Frazier. She has been doing water right acquisition for over 37 years. And she's been doing a lot of the water right acquisitions for properties around the North Valley and elsewhere throughout the Middle Rio Grande. So she's basically the expert to do this. And she's worked with us for at least a year and a half. And so we have the best individual doing this for us.
Great.
It really is a good situation. Fantastic, actually. Okay.
Great. I have no further questions tonight.
Okay. Trustee Benavides.
Sometimes I have questions for you and sometimes I don't. This time I don't have any questions for you.
Okay. Trustee Radnovich.
I don't have any questions, Mayor, other than what's already been asked.
Okay. Therefore, I'm going to call for the question, call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco.
Yes.
Trustee Lewis.
Yes.
Trustee Benavides.
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Item 9B, discussion and approval of resolution number 2023-05-04, a resolution acknowledging the FY21/2022 audit. CFO Tammy Silva.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, trustees, before you is the resolution that was just referenced by the mayor, Resolution 2023-05-04. And this is to acknowledge and accept the fiscal year 22 audit that was presented to us last month by our auditing firm, Jaramillo Accounting Group. And this is required by state statute for us to accept the audit and then turn it into the state through LGBMS. So I stand for any questions if you have any on this resolution.
Okay, before we get to discussion from the governing body, I need a motion to approve resolution 2023-05-04.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-05-04.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll ask each trustee if they have any questions for CFO Tammy Silva. Trustee Pacheco.
I do not.
Trustee Lewis.
I do not.
Trustee Benavides.
I have none.
Trustee Radnovich.
I have none as well.
Therefore, I'm going to call for the question, call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco.
Yes.
Trustee Lewis.
Yes.
Trustee Benavides.
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Item C, Discussion and approval of the interim budget for fiscal year 2023/2024. Administrator Ann Simon.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Before you is the interim budget for FY24. This budget is based on the budget workshop that we held on April 3rd, where we went through all departments as well as capital projects and the remainder of the budget. We listened to your comments and feedback, and we have a list of capital projects that we can accomplish and that provide quality of life amenities for the village residents, like park improvements, recreation facilities, and facility improvements. And it's, as I said, things that we can accomplish, and I'm happy to go through those projects. Despite getting everything in that we wanted, we are still $100,000 in the black, which gives us a little bit of wiggle room between now and our final budget in July, and that's about it. I stand for questions.
Okay, before we get to discussion from the governing body, I need a motion to approve the interim budget.
I would make a motion to approve the interim budget.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
I'm going to go trustee by trustee for questions of Administrator Simon or anybody else on our staff. Trustee Pacheco.
I have none, as long as everything is kind of what we talked about. And I think that for the most part, this is everything that we discussed at our meeting.
Trustee Lewis.
Correct.
One thing I'm not seeing where to find it. We agreed at that interim budget meeting to increase our, I guess it's a contribution to the Sheriff's Department for public safety.
Correct.
And another sheriff in the village. Is that in this budget?
Mayor, Trustee Lewis, and trustees, we actually were able to use Rescue Act funds for that purpose, and so it saved us from taking it out of our general fund this time.
Okay, I wondered why I couldn't find it in there. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, Trustee Benavides.
I have no questions.
Trustee Radnovich.
I just have one very small one. On page 57, there's professional services temp labor. I'm assuming that is for our planning and zoning administrator while she's gone.
Trustee Radnovich, Mayor, which fund?
I'm sorry, it's on line, it's
Is it the planning and zoning?
45, oh, I'm sorry.
Mayor, trustees, I can answer that if you'd like. So it's actually on that page twice. Under the 1200 financial administration portion up at the top, you will see contract services temp labor. That was budgeted last year for my maternity leave, and it is 0 for fiscal year 24. If you move further down into the planning and zoning 1700 department, you will see it listed there again, professional services temp labor. It was 0 last year, and it is budgeted for fiscal year 24, and that is for the planning and zoning director as she takes her maternity leave.
Perfect, thank you. That's the only question I have, Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to call for the question, call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco.
Yes.
Trustee Lewis.
Yes.
Trustee Benavides.
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich.
Yes.
Now we're going to go to item 10, which is public hearings. Item 10A is discussion and approval to advertise ordinance number 295, an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque, New Mexico, general obligation bonds, Series 2023, in the principal amount of $8 million, payable from ad valorem taxes levied on all taxable property within the village, levied without limit as to rate or amount, providing for the form, terms, and conditions of the bonds, the manner of their execution, and the method of and security for payment, providing for the award and sale of the bonds to the purchaser and the price to be paid by the purchaser for the bonds, and providing for other details concerning the bonds. Administrator Simon.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees. Yes, before you is an item that is very significant for the village and the future of the village, and we're really excited to present this to you tonight. As you know, we asked the voters to approve some bonds to purchase open space. We have been diligently working with a buyer on a property along Rio Grande Boulevard and they have agreed to sell us the land. And this is adjacent to the Agri-Nature Center, and it's also adjacent to the city of Albuquerque's open space. So it's a really appropriate purchase, I think, for the village. There are two things we need to do tonight. The first is that we are going to request a loan from the New Mexico Finance Authority. Second thing we're going to do is authorize the publication of our intent to adopt an ordinance to issue these bonds. I have here tonight to present all this information Eric Harrigan from RBC Capital, and we also have Chris Muirhead. Hi, Chris. Who's bond counsel under Nan Winters Delsner firm. So I'm going to give it to Eric right now to take us through the financing piece.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor and trustees. Eric Harrigan with RBC Capital Markets. We're the village's municipal advisor. And so I'm going to kind of walk through the financial component of this and then turn it over to Chris Muirhead, and he can kind of go over the resolution and ordinance that is before you. So do you all have a presentation in front of you? And I have extra copies if you need one. The thing I wanted to start off with is, what has happened with the village's tax base, because this kind of is, critical to the discussion that we'll be having. And the village's tax base, if we go to the next slide, has grown quite well over the past 5 years. Village's tax base has gone from about 275 million to over 315 million. It's been about 3.5% growth a year. If you also look over the last 10 years, the village has had very consistent growth of 3.5% a year. If you look in the next page, the Village of Los Ranchos isn't the only entity that levies a property tax. The state does, the county does, a school district does. But the village has had a very stable tax rate of 1 mil for servicing its 2007 general obligation bonds that were authorized by voters back then. And the issuance of these bonds, as we'll kind of talk about, will continue that 1 mil tax rate that has been in place since that time. So the 2007 bonds, if you go to the next slide, those will mature in 2027. Those were originally issued in the amount of $8 million. They were refunded last year, if you recall, or 2 years ago, if you recall, for interest rate savings. The village was able to reduce the interest cost on those bonds. But in going to the next slide, with the issuance of these bonds, structuring the bonds around the 2007 bonds, as the village has done in the past, it has contributed money to the payment of those 2007 bonds to maintain that 1 mil tax rate. And what we have provided here is a schedule of what the maturity schedule would look like, assuming all 8 million is issued. And again, one of the things I want to just mention here is that this ordinance is an up to amount, does not require the village to issue all $8 million. It provides you the flexibility to issue anything below that if you so chose. But it gives you the maturity schedule of what the debt would look like, as well as the projected contribution from the village to maintain the tax rate that the village has had for a long period of time. From a timing standpoint, subject to your approval this evening, you would notice to adopt the ordinance at your June meeting, and that you would, there's another agenda item which authorizes a finalized application to the New Mexico Finance Authority. They will meet later this month to approve the loan. And then later on, we would price the bonds, lock in the interest rate, and at the amount that the village needs to acquire the properties that they have selected. We have a number of slides on the market. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to just provide a really high level. Obviously, we've seen a lot of volatility in the markets from a significant number of factors of the Federal Reserve trying to combat inflation. We've had regional banks that have failed. that has just created a significant amount of volatility. But if we actually look at what has happened to municipal interest rates or tax exempt interest rates, they really peaked in November of last year. They've come down since then. For those of you that really kind of track the market and what's been going on with inflation, CPI came out 4.9% today. That's the lowest it's been since April of 2021, so 2 years ago. So the actions of the Fed appear to be working. The market did rally in terms of, lower interest rates on the Treasury market today. And so, we anticipate that the interest rate that the village will be able to lock in is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5% to 3.75%. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the process of the financing itself, or turn it over to Chris Muirhead to talk about the ordinance.
Does Chris want to speak now or after? Okay, come on up, Chris. Thank you.
Mayor, trustees, Chris Muirhead, bond counsel, working with Nan on this. So the ordinance in front of you does exactly what Eric was talking about. This is just an introduction tonight, but it will approve up to $8 million. When the actual pricing happens, this will be filled out with the exact amount, and then in the second page, it will list all the maturities for 20 years with the interest rate. So next month, you will have all that information in front of you to approve, and you'll be able to approve the financing with all those terms in them. The ordinance exactly mirrors the election question from last November. So in terms of borrowing, this is the most political cover anybody could have in terms of the voters have all voted on this and had an opportunity to participate. Majority of the ordinance is mechanics of what the New Mexico Finance Authority, in terms of issuing the bonds and buying the bonds and how those bonds work. But the nuts and bolts are that you are, as Eric said, pledging this ad valorem tax currently at the 1 mil. Next month, we can go into all the details about the pricing. But this, like I said, this will be the official action of the trustees in June, with the closing then in July to purchase the property.
So I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
There are 3 members of the governing body who cannot attend the June 14th meeting. We could have a special meeting the last 3 days of June. Would it be mandatory for us to have that special meeting to act on what you're saying?
So you will need just a simple majority on this?
Yes.
So with 3, do you have a quorum with just 2?
Well, there won't be a quorum on June 14th.
Okay.
But there will be a quorum the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th of June. So if it needs to be done before the end of June, is that acceptable?
Yes.
That's my question.
Yes, Mayor. So we would absolutely would hold off until the correct amount of trustees were present.
You answered my question.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, before we get to questions from the discussion from the governing body, and we do have one person from the audience who does want to speak, I would like to have each member, and I'll go trustee by trustee. So let's start with Trustee Pacheco.
Mayor, before you go on, we need to make a motion.
So you want a motion before we do that? Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, I do need a motion to approve the advertisement of ordinance number 295.
Motion to approve ordinance 295.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Now, let's go to discussion from the governing body. Sorry
Mayor,
about that.
my apologies
That's
again.
okay. No.
We need to make the motion to approve the advertisement of
it's the-
ordinance
yes.
295.
Yes, it's the advertisement of ordinance number 295.
So I'll remake my motion.
Okay.
Motion to approve to advertise ordinance 295.
I need a second for that.
I'll second.
motion. Okay, we're good now, correct? Yes, sir. Okay, discussion from the governing body, trustee by trustee. Trustee Pacheco.
I really only have, I think, one question at this time. I'd like to hear what the other trustees, what their questions are, but I just want to make sure that this is, we're not, with this tonight, we are not binding the village into anything. I mean, that'll all be decided next month, correct?
At a future meeting.
Or at a future meeting, June meeting. So really, this is just kind of the framework of what we will fill in moving forward.
Yeah, Mayor, trustee, that is correct. Tonight's just the publication. Your actual adoption or not adoption of the ordinance would be at the end of June.
Thank you. That's all I have right now, Mayor.
Okay, trustee Lewis.
Thank you. My question, I guess, is for you, Chris. Paragraph C on page 3, I just want to make sure that we're in complete understanding that the bonds maturing on or after August 1st, 2033 are callable at the option of the village.
Mayor, trustee Lewis, that's correct. So the finance authority in purchasing the bonds has a requirement that you couldn't redeem them for that 10-year period just for their own investment. At that point, though, then it is the village's option until, over the last 10 years of the bonds, if they want to redeem them, it's entirely within your control to do that.
Okay, and we anticipate these to all be 20-year bonds?
Yeah, it's currently structured at 20 years. That's correct.
Okay. I think you've answered my other questions.
Okay.
In your discussion. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Trustee Benavides.
Yeah, there was, I got some questions about this because it's a little bit confusing and not any fault of the way it's worded. It's just because it's hard to comprehend what this means to the general public. So the question that I got is, does this mean our taxes are going to go up? And I don't know if we can put that table back up there, the payment schedule.
We can put that back up. Page.
It was the last thing that was up there.
That's the table right there.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's the page.
So what I understand is the mill levy is going to be, it's one now, it's going to stay one.
Exactly.
And the payments are going to be over and above the mill levy, but we handle that out of our
correct?
general obligation.
That is correct, right?
That is correct.
And this table here assumes a 3.5% interest rate, is that correct? So
That is
it could be a little bit more, but not much more, right?
It could be a little bit more unlikely, but yeah.
I think you're saying maybe 3.5,
3.5 to 3 1/4.
Okay.
You know, if it's 3 1/4, you'd probably be looking at probably $7,000, annual difference, if that.
Okay. So, yeah, I just wanted to be clear to the general public that we are not increasing any taxes.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, trustee Radnovich.
I just have some questions about mostly the village, and maybe this is a question for Tammy to start with, but looking at that schedule, has the village ever had issues like actually paying for this, for the yearly nut on this bond as we use it?
I don't know if Tammy's still online, but I can attempt to answer that.
It does commit us, correct?
Mayor, trustee Radnovich.
I can help answer it too, but go ahead.
I'll start and Mayor can chime in. No, we've never defaulted on our payment, ever. We issued that first bond to buy the Buffalo Curve. We knew that we would need to save because we would not generate enough tax revenue with the 1 mill. So we set aside funding every year to pay that, to make that payment every year. The way they calculated our capacity at 8 million was to look at our revenue generation. And they have assured us that we have the capacity, that we are budgeting well, we are spending wisely, and we are bringing in more revenue than we are spending. So we have the capacity to make these payments.
Excellent.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you. The other question I have, and this is more of a curiosity than a question, and I believe it's for one of you, I'm not sure which. I noticed on page 3 that the denominations for the bond are in multiples of $5,000 each. Is that kind of a traditional or typical
So that's Mayor, Trustee, that's a very good question. So in the public marketing, you would see them at $5,000 increments, which is the tradition. Here with the Finance Authority, and we can change it to $1, or we can change it to $1,000. So that is driven by tradition and history as a public marketing, but given that this may not be a rounded number when it's all said and done, we probably want to change that to $1 to $1,000, somewhere in there.
I see. Okay, I was just, it's
And we
like
would-
an odd, I mean, I didn't understand why it would be $5,000.
Yeah, let him to, but on that, we would
Apparently it
change
is
that for the ordinance as we come back on the end of June. So,
Yeah, it's really, Mayor and trustees, it's really a function of how municipal bonds are sold in the public market. Investors buy $5,000 increments. The debt is modeled after that, although as Mr. Muirhead said, the Finance Authority, they have $1, increments. So that's the way traditional public financing would be done. Obviously, this is a private placement with the New Mexico Finance Authority. The other thing that I think is a good question I just want to point out is that we did look at a public financing versus the New Mexico Finance Authority. The New Mexico Finance Authority does provide a much lower interest cost to the village than going to the public market, so.
Excellent. This is probably a question for you, Ann. Sorry to have so many questions. I'm just trying to understand. I've not been through a bond process like this before. So if, and maybe this is a question for you guys too, I'm not sure. Sorry to be so informal and calling you guys. If we were to have, and this is, purely a hypothetical question, but if we were to have a depression in 2030 or whatever, what happens if the village has some financial difficulties, and if it does become a default kind of condition? What exactly would happen in a case like that?
So, Mayor's trustee, so what the village, in any ad valorem property tax question, any GO bond, you are pledging the full faith and credit of the village. So it is structured that, and this is what RBC does in consultation with the village staff, is structuring it so that you maintain the 1 mil, and with the idea looking forward that the revenues are anticipated to stay steady. However, if there is catastrophic economic conditions, the Finance Authority could require that you raise your property taxes to cover the debt.
Oh, interesting.
So, and that is why general obligation debt has an election, and that's why it's considered the most secure of an offering, because it can adjust. The pledge is unlimited, so that the lender knows that that it has resources.
Wow.
Can I follow up?
Yeah, go for that.
Sorry, about that. So there's a Great Depression, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or well, this will be done in 20 years, 15 years, whatever. And suddenly we find ourselves in a difficult position to make the payment. Where we can always sell property to make the payment, I would think, before we raise
Assets
taxes.
is what you're
We can sell assets, yes. So we're buying assets with this. We have an equal value in the property, I believe. So I think that would be an option, right?
Yeah, so Mayor, trustee, yeah, any resources that are legally available, and all would be legally available, can be used to pay the debt. So it would not be a situation that you absolutely have to raise your mill levy. It would depend on what other resources you have and what as a governing body, as a policy decision you make, how you'd want to address that.
I just want the public to know we have other options, that's all.
That is true.
Yeah, because raising taxes is
a non-starter.
It's a scary one.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's all I had. Let me just scan my notes really quick.
Don?
Sure. Thank you for the good explanations too. So the mayor and Danielle sign on the dotted line for this, what are their responsibilities at that point?
So,
And suppose next election, the mayor decides not to run or gets beaten, what happens then?
yeah, Mayor, Trustee, so they are signing in their official capacities as the duly elected mayor, the village clerk. So they're doing that as a representative of those offices. And in terms of, at the time of closing, that is done on behalf of the village. And so there is no personal liability for the mayor, for any of you, any of the staff. It is a village obligation, and they're doing it in their official capacity.
I see.
And so even if, likely somewhere in this 20 years, y'all change positions, it wouldn't impact the fact that the mayor signed these in July.
I was thinking that probably was the case,
Yes.
but I wanted to ask the question.
No, it's a fair question, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all my questions, Mayor.
Trustee Lewis has a question. Go right ahead, sir.
First of all, I want to clarify that we're not committing to any amount of money until the end of June.
Right.
And so
Correct.
hopefully, because we've put money away in our land acquisition fund, et cetera, these are the max numbers that we would borrow. Hopefully, it will be less than this amount, because I personally feel like the more we can get the debt down, the better.
Yes.
Secondly, I would like to see before the end of June, maybe going back 5 years I'd like to clarify something that Trustee Benavides said. The excess over the 1 mil comes out of our operations as a village.
That is correct.
It doesn't, you just happen to say general obligation. It doesn't come from general obligation bonds. I don't think that's what you meant.
No,
but it came
general
out
fund,
of-
I said general fund. I thought I said it, but
Yeah,
I'm
okay, and I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that's clarified for people.
I
This
probably
is-
misspoke.
This is just general funds, and I think that
Good clarification.
is something that needs to be clarified where this excess money comes. And then I think also it's prudent upon future trustees to make sure parts of budgets that's putting money away to either have an ample reserve. We have kept an ample reserve on the bonds we have out there now. That's something that's been a real passion of mine, that we've got it more than covered for a year. That we have that reserve, that if we hit a really hard year, we've got it covered. Secondly, I think it would be something I wanted to point out, and that is that after 10 years, if we can start retiring some bonds, if it's prudent at any time, or to refinance them, those are things that we want to be sure to be on top of it all the time too. So I just wanted to make those couple of comments before we get to the end of June.
Yeah, good comment.
Thank you, Mayor and Trustee Lewis. Those are excellent comments, and we will definitely do that. I will work with Tammy to make sure that we have those guardrails in place. I also want to remind you that we first met Eric when he refunded the last bond, helped us refund the last bond per your suggestions, and saved ourselves quite a bit of money.
Any further questions?
No, I have no further questions.
Okay, we do have a member from the audience who wants to speak. Mr. Joe Craig, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Joe Craig, 505 Calle del Pajarito Northwest, President of the Friends of Los Ranchos. We are advocates for open space. Number one priority on our list is this property, has been for a number of years. I think this is a good, I like open space, period. I don't know what the hell we're doing here, though. We voted, our vote was on a bond paid for with gross receipts tax. Now you're telling us we're doing another bond for $8 million based on property tax.
I'm not sure that's correct. Nan Winter, you may want to comment on that.
It's what we supported. We got out and supported a bond for $8 million. George has worked with us. We put up signs, we did all this, paid for with gross receipts tax. So we have a gross receipts tax for 8 million, and we have now a property
I don't
tax
think
for 8
so.
million.
That's why I want her to comment on this, because this is a complicated issue. Perhaps you two could answer that question.
Yes, if you don't mind. Sure. So Mayor, and I'll defer to Eric who ran the analysis, but on the legal side of it, this, as we just talked about, has a backing of your property taxes, and that's when we talk about general obligation, and that's what is required to have an election that you are going for, understanding that it's a property tax obligation. What you were looking at, though, is how it's structured with capping it at the 1 mil, practically moving forward, was based on, I'm assuming, gross receipts tax revenues coming in historically and in the future, so that the village wouldn't see an increase in their property taxes because the gross receipts taxes were covering the difference.
That's correct.
So that's the legal difference between the gross receipts tax. But just to be clear, what you are looking at is a property tax question that went to the voters, and it is a general obligation of the village.
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. I voted on a gross receipts tax. When we passed the original $5.6 million, 5.7 for the agri-nature, that was the first ever property tax that we passed. I worked months. George worked months. We called people. We got the first property tax passed. What we promised, and Bob Kears back here is was against what we were doing, is that we're expanding that tax again.
I don't think so, but Nan, I think you have to answer this question, because I don't want misconceptions.
Well,
out
let
there in
me
the public.
finish here.
Go right ahead and finish.
We refinanced the $2 million. It cost us about $200,000 to refinance those bonds, about 10% of it, which I thought was outrageous. We talked at that time in this trustees that we were not going to be expanding that property tax. That's what we're doing right now.
I don't think so, but go ahead. Will you allow her to answer that question? Please.
Mayor, trustees, Mr. Muirhead was spot on. This is, you voted on a general obligation bond that was supported and backed by property taxes.
Correct.
There is some confusion because what comes into the general fund is gross receipts taxes, and the GRT taxes actually pay the excess that's not collected.
It's been that way all along.
It's been that way all along.
Correct.
So it was advertised and noticed as a GO bond backed by property taxes, period, end of story. Absolutely no ambiguity about that.
Total ambiguity on this side, because I don't know what the hell we're doing.
Okay.
Do we have, so this is one $8 million bond. The voters, this voter voted for a gross receipts tax funding.
Okay, I think we are on solid ground. Our legal counsel has told us how this is done. We've been doing it this way literally ever since the very first time.
We had a conversation with you guys going, we don't really like spending gross receipts tax.
Well, okay, I hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Craig. The floor is now closed for comments. I'm going to call for the question, call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco?
Yes.
Trustee Lewis?
Yes.
Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. We're going to move to item 10. Does anybody want to take a 5-minute break? For any reason?
We can.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break to use the restroom.
You must use the restroom.
Oh, I see. It's like that. It's a demand.
It is. A break to use the restroom. Everybody must go.
I don't think I need to just yet, so I guess I'm not gonna respect it.
let's reconvene our meeting. The time is 9 p.m. Okay. Item 11 is new business. 11A, discussion and approval of resolution number 2023-05-01, a resolution notifying the Bernalillo County Clerk of the at-large positions to be filled for the Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque for the 2023 regular local election to be held on Tuesday, November the 7th, 2023. Village Clerk Danielle Cedillo Molina.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor, and trustees. Each local government shall notify the county clerk of all local government positions that are to be filled at the next regular election. Resolution number 2023-05-01 fulfills the requirement and is in accordance with NMSA 1978 1-22-4A. The Village of Los Ranchos will have the following at-large positions. 1 open position for mayor for a 4-year term, and 2 open positions for trustees, also for 4-year terms. Key information regarding filing dates, along with times and locations, are listed on the resolution. This year's election will be taking place on Tuesday, November 7th, 2023, with early voting commencing on Saturday, October 21st, and ending on Saturday, November 4th. Polling places will be established throughout Bernalillo County. The term of office of a candidate that is elected shall begin on January 1st following the election, and the candidate to whom a certificate of election has been issued. If this resolution is approved, I will then submit it to the Bernalillo County Clerk, who will then submit it to the Secretary of State. And they will notify the Secretary of State of the village's intention. And then just as a side note, key dates and information will be updated on the election page of the website and in the Village Vision in the upcoming months. So with that, Mayor and trustees, I ask for your approval of Resolution 2023-0501. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Before we get to any discussion from the governing body, I will ask for a motion to approve Resolution 2023-05-01.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05-01.
I need a second.
I second.
Okay, I'm going to go trustee by trustee. Trustee Pacheco, any questions?
No questions.
Trustee Lewis.
No.
Trustee Benavides.
I have none.
Trustee Radnovich.
I don't have any questions
I'm
either.
going to call for the question, call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco.
Yes.
Trustee Lewis.
Yes.
Trustee Benavides.
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich. The
Yes.
motion carries unanimously. Item 11B, discussion and approval of resolution number 2023-05-02, a resolution authorizing and approving submission of a completed application for financial assistance and project approval to the New Mexico Finance Authority. Administrator Simon.
Mayor, trustees, thank you. This is a resolution approving the application to the New Mexico Finance Authority. I'm going to turn it over again to Chris or Eric to expand. Sorry, you have to kind of press it.
Mayor, trustees, the resolution in front of you is just truly a ministerial matter. The Finance Authority, when they want to look at anybody who's looking to either sell them bonds or enter into a loan agreement, want to make sure the governing body's aware of it. I mean, obviously there's total transparency between the staff and the governing body here, but they just want to make sure that there's not a situation where there's a rogue staff person submitting an application without the governing body knowing about it. So this just gives you an opportunity to say, yes, please submit this application. That's all it does. There really isn't anything else to it.
Okay, before we get to discussion from the governing body, trustee by trustee, I need a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05-02.
I will make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05-02.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, let's go trustee by trustee. Trustee Pacheco,
No questions.
trustee Lewis,
No questions.
trustee Benavides,
No questions.
trustee Radnovich.
No questions.
No one signed up from the general public to speak on this, so therefore the floor is closed for comments. I want to call for the question, call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco.
Yes.
Trustee Lewis.
Yes.
Trustee Benavides.
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Item C, discussion and approval of resolution number 2023-05-03, a resolution extending the moratorium on pilot project and conservation development standards permit applications to December 2023. Planning and Zoning Director Maida Rubin.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees. This is a resolution extending the moratorium on pilot project and conservation development standards permits applications to December 2023. The Citizens Advisory Committee has been meeting regularly over the past two and a half or so months to discuss potential text amendments to Ordinance 284. Staff in the group has done research, analysis, and has had discussions with subject matter experts. The village also hosted a public meeting last Thursday to take citizen input on the direction of the ordinance, which was very well attended. The current moratorium will soon expire, and the Citizens Advisory Committee has urged staff to keep the current momentum going and to have any proposed text amendments ready for board consideration and potential adoption at the December 2023 meeting. Staff has prepared a timeline of work to meet this deadline and has prepared Resolution 2023-05-03, extending the moratorium to December in alignment with this timeline. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Before we get to discussion from the governing body, trustee by trustee, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05-03.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-05-03.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Let's go trustee by trustee with any questions. Trustee Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor. Maida, what was the original date for the ending of the moratorium on this?
I believe, Mayor and Trustee Pacheco, it is the end of this month.
The end of May?
May.
Okay, I guess I'm just, we're talking like a 7-month extension to this moratorium. Why is it that we are going to need that much time to get to kind of a final presentation?
Mayor and Trustee Pacheco, I believe at the beginning of the moratorium process, the timeline of work was not necessarily under consideration and available. One thing that had been done in the meantime had been proposing text amendments to the C1 zone as well. So several tasks that we had been working on. And it's just not quite enough time to meet that deadline for this month. Obviously, you don't have anything before you tonight or last month. So the momentum has been great on this so far, but we're going to need some more time. And we want to make sure that the public can continue to weigh in on this process.
And do we feel like that many months are going to be needed in order to gather the information? From staff's point of view?
Mayor and Trustee Pacheco, absolutely.
May I interject, Maida, and you're going to be gone for a period of time, correct?
Correct. There's also a 3-month adoption period baked into any of these text amendments because we would like it to go before the Planning and Zoning Commission for recommendation and then advertisement the next month in front of the board and then potential adoption in front of the board. So we would like to engage the public some more to propose various recommendations to them, work with the actual text, which is quite a process, and then to get it before you all.
Mayor, did you have anything to add? So this December 2023 deadline, would that be a complete adoption of of this, or is it just coming back to us for kind of our feedback? I mean,
Mayor and trustee, I believe that the hope is to have solid text amendments before you for potential adoption in December. So this is not just a back and forth conversation. It could be if that's what the board would like. However, that would be to adopt those changes. And I'd like to add that that's actually, it sounds like a lot of time. It's not a lot of time.
okay, and then where do we stand? Because I know that obviously this committee was looking at 3 different sets of changes. Where does the VC zone kind of fall in this whole process? And is that now going to be extended out past 2023?
Mayor and trustee, so there is no current moratorium on the VC zone residential standards like there was for the C1. However, you know, it's not forgotten. We're working as fast as we can to work on everything we want to do. I think we are working hard to meet this timeline for the cluster housing ordinance. And although we want to fit it in as we go, I don't know that that's realistic.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions, Mayor.
Okay, trustee Lewis.
I have no questions. I understand your timeline now, so thank you.
Trustee Benavides.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I'm on the Citizens Advisory Committee as well as George, so George probably might have some comments. Yeah, so we went through this process with the C1, right? And you know, a couple things about why that even took longer. You know, you can, well, let me say perfect is the enemy of good, right? You know, you want to just keep working on it and working on it, and at some point you can let it go. And so another thing that we realized we were doing incorrectly is we were not we did not have many opportunities for public comment. So that took some time. And why December? For the sake of continuity, it would be best to get that done while we are all still here. I think before the election, basically.
Okay, trustee Radnovich.
When I personally voted on the original ordinance, I kicked myself a lot for the vote that I made because I didn't, you know, I was 1 month into being a trustee and I read it, but it was a lot to take in. And I'm sure that the trustees and the mayor and staff spent a lot of time on that first go round on this bill. And I wish I would have had more time to look at it. And that's why I keep bringing up at multiple meetings, 3 days is too little to go through things. And then I was 1 month into this, so I was a rookie at best. So, and I do this for a living. I mean, I do things like that subdivision for a living. So, at least sometimes. So after participating in the CAC for 3 months, I think, something like that, it is going to take a substantial amount of time, and we are going to have really a big rewrite of that ordinance when we're done. And Maida's been doing a really good job corralling all the cats and making sure we're doing what we need to do, and we've been given a lot of homework, and I think it's actually a short amount of time. And I think the only reason that we're trying to get it done in December is just what Trustee Benavides just said, that we really think it's important for the 4 of us trustees are able to vote on it and get it done before 2 of the trustees, or at least 1 of the trustees, goes away because Trustee Lewis is going to be retiring from our club here. So So I support totally waiting until December to, or getting this done before the end of the year, I should say. And I think it'll take easily that time.
Thank you, Trustee Radnovich. There's no one from the floor who wants to, from the public who wants to comment on this, therefore the floor is closed for comments. I'm going to call for the question, call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco.
Yes.
Trustee Lewis.
Yes.
Trustee Benavides.
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Item D, discussion and approval of Resolution 2023-05-05, a resolution accepting the approval of a celebration permit, Lavender Festival, July 2023. Administrator Simon.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees. Before you is the celebration permit for the Lavender Festival. As you might recall, we must approve the vending of alcohol on our public facilities. And since this is a village event, this is the village event, we are asking for your approval of a celebration permit to provide alcohol at the Lavender Festival at Hartnett Park. The potential vendors are following in your resolution: Casa Rondena, Hollow Spirits, Kelly Joe Design by Wine, Left Turn Distillery, Safe House Distillery, Gruet, Hops Brewery, Las Nueva Niñas Winery, Los Poblanos, and or Steel Bender Brewery. And these vendors have all expressed interest. We don't have a final count since it's still 2 months away. I stand for questions.
Okay, before we get to discussion from the governing body, trustee by trustee, I need a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05-05.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05-05.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm going to go trustee by trustee. Any questions or discussion? Trustee Pacheco.
None.
Trustee Lewis.
No, not at this time.
Trustee Benavides.
Yeah, just one quick thing, and I know this is about a celebration permit, but as a related topic in the resolution, you say, the Village of Los Ranchos has an agreement with the new managers of the event, Rio Grande Community Farm. Do we get to see that agreement later, or do we vote on that?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mayor and Trustee Benavides. We will share that agreement with you. It is not final.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, Trustee Radnovich.
Just a quick comment, and this is based on something that Trustee Benavides said a meeting or two ago. If there's a way for the village to, the village doesn't make very much money on the Lavender Fest. And it would be nice if we could figure out a way to also fund the village, because I really doubt that we're even paying for fixing the grass and the sprinklers after something like this. So I think in the future, we really need to look at this agreement and give the village more favor in terms of what we're doing. I mean, the festival's great. You know, the Lavender Fest is something I go to every year, and it's awesome. But I think we need to rethink what we're charging at some level to at least pay for the damage that's done to Hartnett Park. So just a comment.
Okay. That takes care of the discussion. I'm going to call for the question, call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco.
Yes.
Trustee Lewis.
Yes.
Trustee Benavides.
Yes.
Trustee Radovich.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. E, discussion and approval of resolution number 2023-05-06, a resolution accepting the approval of a celebration permit, anniversary of Gila Wilderness and Aldo Leopold, June 2023. Administrator Simon.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. This is an event that is being held at the Agri-Nature Center. Again, it's a resolution requesting your permission to vend alcohol at that event. The alcohol will be provided by Kelly Joe Design by Wine, and it'll be at the Agri-Nature Center on June 2nd. It is in celebration of the Gila Wilderness and Aldo Leopold anniversary. The folks, Joshua and Joshua's team, have partnered with the Aldo Leopold Society to assure that Aldo Leopold's seminal book on land conservation, the Sand County Almanac. Copies are provided to those who attend. It should be a very nice event, and we hope that you all attend June 2nd, 2023. I urge you to support this celebration permit and stand for questions.
Okay, I'll go trustee by trustee if there's any questions. Trustee Pacheco?
No questions.
Mayor, I'm sorry. We need a motion,
I'm
please.
sorry. Okay, I thought, let's see, we're talking about item E. Okay, I need a motion to approve resolution 2023-05-06.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05-06.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, now we can go to discussion from the governing body, trustee by trustee. Trustee Pacheco?
None.
Trustee Lewis?
None.
Trustee Benavides?
None.
Trustee Radnovich?
I'm really happy that we're having this event there. Aldo Leopold's one of my personal heroes, and he was such a great man and so forward-thinking, so I wholeheartedly support this. It's awesome.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. Item F, discussion and approval recommendation from the Evaluation Committee of RFP number SE.
Mayor,
Yes.
my apologies. I believe you had just asked them if they had any questions. We didn't take a vote.
I thought we did.
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll take the vote. Let's do it. All right, let's go. Call for the question, call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco?
Yes.
Trustee Lewis?
Yes.
Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. Sorry. Item F, discussion and approval recommendation from the Evaluation Committee of RFP number SE-23-03 for survey and engineering services, Chavez Road Multi-Use Trail, allowing the mayor to enter into a professional services contract between the Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque with the following firm, Parametrics. Maria, did you want to go ahead? Go right ahead.
Mayor, trustees, having received Transportation Alternative Project funds from the Federal Highway Administration administered through NMDOT, and our request for proposals for engineering services was issued on March 11th with the deadline of March 31st. The notice was properly advertised in the Albuquerque Journal on more than one occasion, and the notice and RFP packet was uploaded on the Village of Los Ranchos website. A mandatory pre-proposal meeting was held on site on Chavez Road on March 22nd, at which 5 potential proposers participated, and we received 2 proposals on March 13th, one from Parametrics and one from Tool Design. The Evaluation Committee has rated and ranked the RFP submissions based on the evaluation criteria included in the RFP, and we recommend an award to Parametrics. All of the offers were notified of an offer being made to Parametrics. We are funded in the amount of $883,727,000 specifically for design. We have negotiated a fee. I'll go over the scope of that fee in just a moment. A fee with Parametrics in the amount of $347,349.54, leaving us a remaining balance of over $500,000 to go towards final design. Parametrics scope includes the development and implementation of a public information plan and agency coordination in accordance with all the exceeding the minimum requirements by the funding sources, the preparation of a design alternative, what is called a Phase 1 A-B design study that establishes and summarizes existing conditions, an environmental investigation and preparation of the environmental document in accordance with the regulations required by NMDOT, preliminary design of the recommended alternatives, which means the several alternatives may be put forward and a selection at 30% design to be selected in the manner in which we select, as we did on the 4th Street project, drainage analysis and memo, survey control location and topo mapping. This is the right-of-way, all of our surveying that is necessary for underground utilities, geotech, existing conditions, and primarily and most importantly, What is the right-of-way out there? Subsurface utility investigations. I'd like to introduce Terry Doyle, who is our project lead with Parametrics. If you have any questions of him or myself, we are happy to answer.
Okay, thank you for coming and staying for most of the meeting, almost all of the meeting, Terry. I really appreciate it. Terry, you retired from Mid-Region Council of Governments, correct? Correct. What was your position there?
For the last 12 years, I was the director.
Go ahead, come to the podium.
I'm sorry. So my name is Terry Doyle. I'm a senior consultant with Parametrics. My address is 1113 Camino del Rio in Rio Grande Estates, just outside the village limits. I've been with Parametrics for 4 months. Prior to that, for the last 12 years, I was the director of the Rio Metro Regional Transit District, ran the rail runner on behalf of the state of New Mexico, and also bus service in Valencia and Sandoval counties.
Thank you, Terry. Before I get to discussion or questions from the governing body for either of you, I need a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05-06.
I'll make a motion to approve RFP number SE-2023-03.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go trustee by trustee for questions. Trustee Pacheco.
My first question is, you said, Maria, that there will be options that come out of this. Is there a set amount of options? Will we be looking at 3? Will we be looking at 10? What's that look like?
Mayor, Trustee Pacheco, so through the process, through all the survey investigations, the design will be directed by what the existing environmental and physical conditions out within the termini of the project are, what things may be underground that may direct certain aspects of the project. So we don't really know until we have the right-of-way survey, the utility investigations, and the environmental done, what the parameters that we can work within are. And I'd like to expand upon that really quickly. That's why we're funding it this way. We asked only for this portion of money. They gave us more than we asked for, and now they've given us an additional chunk of that. But we are not going to design a project until we know exactly what we're dealing with out there. And that's always been our intent. That's why there are no construction funds attached to this. We do have final design if the project, if we feel that at 30% design, there are feasible alternatives for a multi-use trail out there. And the number of those alternatives will be dependent upon what the results of all this survey activity is.
Okay, great. I think I got that. With regard to the termination points of the trail, obviously to the west, it kind of terminates where the entrance into the Acequia Trail is, right?
So that, we're studying that for a potential to improve that connection. The biggest challenge is for ADA access because of the grade separation and how you now access the ditch trails from there. So that's a thing unto itself that'll be studied. The termination point is there. Either improving that connection to make it fully up to the ditch bank trail or terminating just before. That's a determination that will be made. Going east, there's kind of a couple of different options. So where visibly now we can see that the right-of-way on Chavez Road at Guadalupe narrows significantly and becomes much more urban because of the commercial development around it. We are looking at a potential alternative that is more of a flex trail, and we already have permission from our funding source to be able to do like pedestrian sidewalk rather than multi-use trail, just because that may be the better alternative, yet to be decided. And then when we get to Chavez Road and Osuna Road through the commercial development, determinations and alternatives will be looked at to see if we take Chavez straight to 4th or if it continues through as the roadway does a portion of it through the commercial district to Osuna.
So the little, and I can't remember the name of the road, the little side road that kind of comes around where Frederico's or Frediquitos or whatever the heck the name is that a part of this as well?
It is part of the study.
So we
To
may
make a determination as to whether that's Chavez. Chavez terminates there at 4th Street.
So that road is actually Chavez?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So that is Chavez, and then Osuna kind of.
There is the commercial development, Netherlands sort of region there, so that it'll be studied for, is the alternative to go down Chavez? Is it to go through the commercial district? Is it both? Different applications,
It's always been
both?
kind of
Kind of funky.
Yeah.
But yes, those determinations will be made and alternatives proposed during this process.
Okay, and then are we also looking, obviously, we approved a development there on the corner of Chavez and 4th, right? Will that be considered in the study?
So land uses absolutely will be a consideration throughout the study. Once we get through the determination of what are we working with out there, the next level of design will be will be all uses and what the adjacent existing land uses and potential developments are. Yes, those will be considered.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited about the project. That's all.
It's a great project.
Okay. Trustee Lewis.
I think I understand fully the scope of this, and at the peer review we had for 4th Street, I had the opportunity to sit with a couple of people from Parametrics, and I was very impressed. Yeah, they were really smart guys, and so I have no questions. I'm excited too for this project.
May I comment on that, Mayor, Trustee Lewis? Parametrics, this proposal, I don't know if you had a chance to see it in your packet. I have to tell you, in 32 plus years, this is one of the best RFP responses I have ever seen.
I agree with you on that.
The young engineer who was out there at the field review listened to everything I said. And even very general comments I made about existing conditions in the field and potential alternative applications were in their proposal. It was, and everyone on the committee was impressed with this proposal.
Okay, Trustee Benavides.
So, in regards to the scope of this proposal, what opportunities will there be for public input, and what would that look like?
So they're in the process of developing a public involvement plan. That will include, at a minimum, there'll be a kickoff public involvement meeting. Now, once we have the professional services, if you approve it this evening, we'll start with the schedule. And there'll be a kickoff public meeting. There'll be a second in-person information meeting once alternatives have been designed, have been identified. And there are some of the environmental certification process that has its own requirements for public input that will be met. And they have actually proposed meeting with individual property owners up and down the project, making those connections and making those contacts throughout the project. Did I miss anything there?
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, I think Maria hit most of that. I think when we looked at this project, we understand that this needs to be in step with not only staff and you all, but with the general public and your residents. And so we intend to do a robust public involvement as part of this project and make sure that we get the input that we need to move forward.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that's all. Trustee Radnovich.
I appreciate all the experience that you have, Terry, and I appreciate the proposal.
Who was on the selection committee, if I might ask?
I will defer the question to our clerk, or I can just say that it was Village of Los Ranchos consultant, staff, and we had a peer planner from Bernalillo County, as well as our procurement, oh no, she was not able to do that. That's right, she just oversaw the process. So it was our P&Z administrator, myself, and a planner from Bernalillo County who is an expert in trail development.
Okay. Well, as I said in the beginning, and I'm probably not in the same boat as everybody else up here at the table, and I appreciate the fact that there was planning staff on the selection committee. I think that's great. I'm still very much in favor of a planning lead on the project and not an engineering lead. When I looked through the proposal, and I did, it's primarily engineers, and I'm worried about what the end result will be because of the DOT involvement and because it's a engineering heavy team. So, and I've said this since the very beginning, as you know, and as you know, I wasn't part of any of the RFP writing because we decided to go through the COG, and I appreciate all of that. I think you did a great job on
We
all of
wrote
it.
our own RFP.
Understood, but the COG was part of the,
No,
okay.
Not for this one.
not for this one.
If you remember, well, anyway, I'm not going to go there. But anyway, I think it's an engineering heavy proposal, and I'm worried about it. So,
Mayor Trustee Radnovich, I can address that. This task is engineering heavy. This is all engineering. That's what this is. This is all the engineering required to get us to a point where planning and design will work. With any funding source in a public improvement project is always engineering heavy in the beginning, except in the development of a concept. We have no concept yet. This is a determination of what barriers to design we have out there. What widths, what encroachments in the right-of-way, what right-of-way may be necessary to acquire to have the safety clearances for a multi-use trail, what that trail will look like, what side of the road, what underground obstructions there may be that we have to deal with, what environmental impacts, what sensitivity we have to environmental and cultural resources. This is engineering. That's what this is. We have money set aside for final design when we can talk about amenity and we can talk about the sensitivity of context-sensitive design. This is engineering and this is required.
well, I respectfully disagree. Thank you for your explanation. But I'm not in the same camp, and these kinds of projects aren't always led by engineers, just so you know, because I've been on some teams that have done that. So, you know, I'll respectfully disagree.
The funding source requires it.
That's because it's DOT, right? Thanks.
It makes us very good stewards of community resources to do these types of investigations.
Thank you, Maria.
Any further questions?
No.
Okay. Want to call for the question? Call for the roll call vote. Trustee Pacheco?
Yes.
Trustee Lewis?
Yes.
Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
No.
Okay, no. Motion carries 3-1. So trustee informal discussion is next. A roundtable discussion is informal. The Board of Trustees will take no action, vote, or other action. We'll go trustee by trustee. Trustee Pacheco.
A couple of things. I just again want to commend our staff. This has been a tough week, I think, for our staff. There's been a lot of work that's had to go into the last couple of meetings, and the meeting last night was difficult, to say the least, I think, for a lot of our staff. And I just want to say thank you for always coming in prepared and, you know, being up to the challenge of long meetings and those kind of things. So I just wanted to say thank you to you. I also, you know, I don't think some of the residents understand everything that our staff and that our volunteer committees do. And, you know, sometimes I wish that we could have some of our residents walk in the shoes of those folks. And I know that everybody's got that opportunity, and I hope that people will step up to the plate and, you know, and just get more familiar with the process. Also, and this is, that's my bandwagon there, but with regard to the cell tower, just kind of not familiar with that whole process of who is maintaining the cell tower and how often we're making kind of updates to it, making sure that it's still looking good, that kind of thing. I think we all get used to seeing it. I don't even think it's something that we look at anymore. It is just there. And I don't know how often, you know, something like that is maintained, but just noticed it and thought I would make mention. Thank you.
Okay, any further, Trustee Pacheco?
Nope, that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Trustee Lewis.
I just have one, and it's sort of becoming a passion of mine, I think, and that is, I wonder if we've taken any more action, and I know everybody's swamped, but I do not want to let this young lady that brought mistletoe forward to us, I don't want her to be ignored, and I would like to sit down, and if we have some kind of meeting with her and see what we can do. I think it's critical to seeing if we can get in front of this mistletoe problem that could have a real devastating effect on the village. And so I want to bring that back up and keep it on the radar. And I have no further questions.
Okay, Trustee Benavides, your turn.
Oh, boy, okay, let's see. First of all, quick thing, apologies to Danielle. So back in March, I said something about, hey, the public comment process is confusing, nobody knows, making public comments, not on the agenda items, and which are the agenda items. And then in April meeting, I said she didn't have those instructions, it was still unclear, but she had them, so sorry. And you were very kind to me in the minutes. You could have just really tore me up on that. So thank you for that. Okay, Agri-Nature Center. Agri-Nature Center is growing, and that's a good thing. It's a huge treasure, and sometimes I throw out the words plan. We need a plan. So we have a master plan, and that is actually a great document. And I looked at what it said about the Agri-Nature Center, and it's really great that what was relevant then when you published that is still relevant today. And I wish if I had my name on that document, I would be proud of that. So putting that aside, what I see there are goals and objectives, okay? And I'm going to say it does not follow my definition of a plan. And here's a great example of a plan. Back in 1961, the Soviets were beating us in the space race, and John Kennedy gets up and gives a speech to Congress, and he says, we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade, and we're going to do it with the Apollo program. So he had three elements of a plan. He said what we were going to do, he said when we're going to do it, and how we're going to do it, okay? So I don't always see those three elements. Now, I heard Joshua get up today and said at the beginning of the year, they do connect those dots. And I don't know if I've seen that. So that would probably be helpful for me to see that. So I see a lot of objectives. I see a lot of what we're doing, but I don't know if we're connecting the dots for the sake of the public. So I think we can do a better job of that. And one of the objectives is in the master plan, supporting the coordination of landowners, businesses, and farmers. So I heard a little bit about that today that Joshua said he was doing. And I just want to see us continue to do that. I think it's very important that we show the value of the Agri-Nature Center to the residents. We keep that message alive. This is a huge asset of ours, and we want to keep this going. And so let's talk about events for a moment. So we have the Lavender Festival is a huge event, and I've made the comment that I don't think we're recouping what we should be recouping, and not just in terms of the maintenance issues that is left behind from the event, but I think there's some money to be had for the village, and we could actually grow these events. So I think we've lost the connection between the Agri-Nature Center and the Lavender Festival, and I want to make it so people to be aware that the Agri-Nature Center enables these events, okay? And I want to keep that connection strong, and I think we can have other events. We ought to consider that because now we're growing, we have more maintenance costs, and we need to strategize on how we can come up with more funds to take care of those additional maintenance costs. And I think Josh is doing a great job, so I'm sorry if it looks like I'm complaining about you. I'm not. It's a criticism of us as trustees and here in the village. If people have, when people complain about the staff, I say you really ought to be complaining to the trustees, okay, not to the staff. I think the staff is great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Benavides. Trustee Radnovich.
One of the things I'd like to suggest is that we actually have a discussion instead of going to the Mayor Pro Tem and then Trustee Lewis and then Trustee Benavides and then me.
I mean, just,
Like it's a discussion, yeah.
we can do that. Well,
I would like to see that in the future.
the only reason for going trustee by trustee is to make sure that we're not
Everybody's heard.
interrupting each other. That's really the only reason. Otherwise, we can certainly do it the other way.
Yeah, it
I have no
seems,
problem with that.
thank you, Mayor. It seems like we might benefit from having an actual discussion instead of trustee by trustee.
We can do that.
I did have a few other comments, but it's late and I'm not going to make those. I do have a couple of questions. My biggest question is, so what happened that I didn't quite understand what Mr. Shen was talking about.
I can tell you.
Thank you.
The email that you should have received, there was an email yesterday morning from Mr. Hank Kelly. I'm sorry. It's on.
Mayor, I've been on I
So
came
then,
from Tucson
okay,
today and I
then
drove.
there is
so
an email in your box that'll explain everything to you. I don't think I should go on from that.
Oh.
It'll tell you exactly what happened. There's an email. Just
Okay.
It'll be there.
Okay, I'll look at it.
Yes.
And then, I'm not sure what happened at the meeting last night that keeps coming up too. I obviously didn't get a chance to look at I mean, I realize what happened in terms of the vote.
Is it proper for us to talk about that at this moment, Nan, in your opinion? I mean, I suppose we could.
Mayor, trustees, if you're talking about what happened last evening, I anticipate there's going to be an appeal of that decision. So I would suggest that keep an eye out for ex parte communications and, issues related to that. But I do anticipate an appeal coming out of last evening's meeting.
I see. Okay. That's it? I don't have
Okay,
anything
I
else.
just have one item, and it's a magnificent cultural event that will occur basically in the honor of San Isidro, the patron saint of farmers, on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock at the Agri-Nature Center. There will be a blessing of the waters. Father Christopher Halliday from the Our Lady of Guadalupe Church has done this 2 years in a row and has agreed to do it this year. And so I welcome anybody to come to that event because it is it is a beautiful tradition in New Mexico. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the meeting for May 10, 2023 is now adjourned.